This podcast is sponsored by CSMI, the maker of the HUMAC Norm isokinetic system. Purchase a new or refurbished machine, or you can even upgrade an existing system to bring it up to date with all the latest testing and training applications. Please visit csmisolutions.com to view all of their available products, including the HUMAC Norm isokinetic system, the HUMAC Balance portable computerized balance system, and Sportswear Online. CSMI. Better data leads to better results.
The Everything PT podcast is sponsored by Vald Performance. Vald is the creator of the airbands for blood flow restriction therapy. If you are looking to stay up to date with today's post-surgical modalities and adding BFR to your clinic, please visit valdperformance.com. Hello, and welcome to the Everything PT podcast with Matt Taylor and Daniel Bodkin. Please do not consider anything you hear to be medical advice. Just a couple of guys ranting about everything PT. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Everything PT podcast. My name is Daniel Bodkin. Matthew Taylor's on the other end of the line. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt. Hey, Daniel. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Just got back from a long hunting trip in Colorado. I think just now it's a Wednesday evening, so I'm just now recovered. I think physically it was awesome. Really worked a lot.
You were
it's great.
A little busy. You should have kept the beard though.
Yeah, I can't take the itch. You know,
yeah,
I can't get past the itch. I'm a clean shaven guy. Always have been.
I was just in Detroit at Wayne State installing an isokinetic machine this weekend, so just coming off of that one.
I've been to that place close to there, like the Rim. I forget what it stands for. It's right down the street, but it's like right in the middle of Detroit, Wayne State, right?
Cool. Nice.
I think it is anyway.
I really don't see much outside of the facility I go to, the hotel, the airport. That's about all I get.
Cool,
but hey, man, we're on episode 26.
26, we're halfway to a year.
Yeah.
Right?
You know,
My
I
math's
love
right.
our episodes where we have special guests. Love those. But I
Yes.
also like these ones right here where we get a chance to kind of chat about things that are, important.
Let's hash it out.
Yeah. So, today we're going to talk about schedule management.
Oh, my arch nemesis here.
Look,
yes.
This can make or break a clinic. I learned a lot of this. I can't take credit for myself. I learned a lot of this from Debbie Hisamoto at Proactive down in Tampa. Then when I went to Nashville with Star Physical Therapy, I was then a director. So I kind of took and applied a lot of those things I learned from Debbie. And then I also got even more of it from them. And that was one of the things that I really felt, because we went from a very struggling clinic, barely able to be profitable, to I think one year we hit like 60,000 profit just within 2 years. And one of them, other than the clinical sales, the marketing we did, a big part of it though was the schedule management.
Yeah, I just as someone who's very busy and a young professional, I'm always trying to make my schedule more efficient. So I saw some of the things that you jotted down for this, and I'm learning. I'm ready to take them in from the Hisamotos over there and learn anything I can. So I think it'll be good.
And some people, what they'll do is they'll let their front end manager schedule. And that's what we did at Proactive because Debbie was on it. But lots of times your front end, they don't understand the in and outs of who should be scheduled with who, what times.
Sure.
But one of the biggest mistakes I see, and I've done it myself too, is, when I'm going to schedule that patient, I say, okay, when can you come in? And that's not how it should be done. You should say, all right, this is what I have available. And so there's a little bit of this, and I kind of wrote it down. So for me looking down to the side is because I'm kind of reading it off.
Sure.
Right, so let's lay out our day. All right. Let's say, you're open, 7 o'clock or even 8 o'clock. Those first hours, kind of like 7 to 9 o'clock, that's for people who need that time.
Right.
People who need to come in before work. Somebody, if they have to, drop their kids off, and then they can come in. That's for people who need that time.
Yeah.
We were in Tampa lot of retirees there, right? We also had a lot of workers' comp. And what we found is a lot of retirees, they tend to be up early. And it's really convenient for them to come in early in the morning, run whatever errands they need, and then they're done for their day. But unfortunately, that's not the best for the clinic, because then you don't have those times open for the people who need it. And the same for your workers' comp. So you kind of hold that time for when they can come in. So they're your, 9, 10, 11 o'clock patient. You can't exactly come into the PT clinic if you're at the office. So that's who that's available for.
Yeah, very true. I'm embarrassed to say I have never really had that thought. I encourage people to schedule out, and I kind of way we do it is first come, first serve. I encourage people to schedule out a full month in advance. That way you get your times, but
Yes.
they haven't been encouraged to get the middle of the morning or anything like that. But that's a great idea to cater to keep those spots open. The thing comes to mind is, if you keep them open, do they ever get filled? Do they never not get filled? So that's my only concern with something like that. Do you ever see that, Daniel?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
And so here's the other thing too. If you don't have an 8 o'clock spot already, scheduled, are you going to schedule somebody at 7 o'clock? Knowing that, hey, I see that person from 7 to 8, and then I don't have somebody again until 9 or 10. So that's something to think about as well. Or are you even just holding those spots for evals? You got to think, what is your goal every week of how many evals do I need to fill? If you're just, and that's, something that you should have as a target goal, but you can even block those, hours off, your lighter hours, as, hey, this is my eval, slots. And you hold those and you fill those with patients if you need to. So the next thing, that lunch hour, right? And if you have it to where, let's say you have 2 clinicians and you both go to lunch from 12 to 1. It's very different doing that versus having one person going, 11 to 12, and then the next person goes 12 to 1. So that way you always have somebody in that clinic making money for that clinic as patients. That also allows people who have a lunch break to come in. Now, let's say, it takes them 5 minutes to get to the clinic and then 5 minutes back to work. So this is ideal for one of your fixed payers. And we're going to get into billing in a moment. Somebody who you're only getting paid for 45 minutes or 30-minute sessions, no matter what you do, right? So that way you're not having to squeeze in an entire hour with that time slot. So they can come in, get their session, and be right back to work. So that helps out with people who have, work hours. Say, hey, I can get you in at lunch. You can eat lunch on your way or on your way home or way back to work. And then, we get your session in. So that's something to think about, is staggering your lunches. That can be really helpful to a clinic. And then next we have 1 to 3 hour, the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock hour. This is pretty much the same as we talked earlier with your Medicare patients, your retirees, your workers' comp. These are people who are available to come in during the day. Try to sandwich them in that 10 to 3 o'clock time. So that way the ends of your schedule, where's my hands? The ends of your schedule you can keep for the pre and post work or school, right? So then we're talking 3 to 5 o'clock. Well, this is when our students, high school students, they're getting out of school, and some college students too, but think college students, they can come in that middle of the day as well. But this is when you should have your high school kids coming in, when they're getting out of school, and they can come in right there if they're not in a sport. That's kind of that 3 to 5 hour. This is when people are getting off of work. So they leave work, they come right to the clinic and get their session. Now, one thing that we would do at Proactive with John is that we each took a day where instead of coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning, we'd come in at 10. And that allowed us to stay open till 7 p.m. So I would do it on Tuesdays. I'd work 10 to 7. John would do it on Thursdays. So this is for people who, they might work till 6, so they can come in right after work. Or your high school students, again, more time for them. Or if they have, they have their sport to go to and they can come in right after. So that 5, 6 o'clock slots, those are huge because you're not paying your staff to be there any longer because they came in at 10 o'clock, but now you're getting more bodies in the door, more treatments being done, and it's beneficial for the patients because, they might not be able to get there at that 4 o'clock time. So that's really helpful. Staggering your schedule, staggering your lunches. John would even sometimes come in at 6 o'clock. He'd come and he'd have a 6 o'clock patient, but then, he'd be out the door at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I'd come in at 7, work, 7 to 5. And then we also had a PTA too, or we would have those staggered, late hours. So your clinic is making you money. You're reducing the amount of time that you're not getting paid.
Right.
Then you have, your situation where you're training people in those early morning hours. I see you just hired a yoga instructor. Personal training, massage therapists. They can rent out your space after hours and use it and pay you rent for that too.
Hey, before we get on to scheduling, I'm sorry for billing and scheduling. You ever work any Saturdays like on the clock? I know a lot of companies. I got some friends that work like 2 Saturdays a month, every other Saturday they're on.
So when I was in Nashville, my clinic didn't because we were able to, fill our times during the week. But some of our other clinics that it was more bigger population, they would pay the PT extra. It was like time and a half to come work Saturday hours. And so I would do that when I was, trying to make some extra money. I would go and I'd work Saturday hours, and it'd usually be like, 9 to noon or 9 to 2, whatever the schedule was.
Sure.
But then, the other thing is you don't fill, let's say we just go back to those evening hours. I'm not going to schedule unless I need to that 6 to 7 o'clock patient if I don't already have a 5 to 6 o'clock patient.
Yeah.
That way I'm not sitting there, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for that person to come in. But those downtimes, that's also a great time for you to catch up on documentation.
True.
And I've even seen before where we purposely leave that final hour of the day open. Not like we're not scheduling it, but we schedule it last. And that's great because you're going to have people that cancel throughout the day. Or, they call, say, oh, I can't come in tomorrow. And you can be like, hey, I have 6 o'clock open tonight. Can you do that? And they'll make it work.
Yeah.
Or if you are behind on your paperwork, that gives you a little buffer to play catch up at the end of the day.
I think having really, really well-trained scheduling front desk too, it comes into play too, because if they're well-trained, they know, because they should want to get out of work a little bit early too. If we do have a patient scheduled at 6 and we have openings at 5 and 4, okay, let's let's give them a call and just offer it up and say, hey, Mrs. Smith, we have an opening at 4 o'clock. Does that work better for you? And sometimes it does. It's not offensive or anything. They don't feel pushed. So it's nice to offer those late hours, but I've been on both sides of that where you're waiting for that last patient at 6 and you're just like, oh gosh, this is miserable. So.
Looking for a way to improve sport-specific training with your athletes? Then you have to check out BlazePods. BlazePods is a neurocognitive reaction training intervention that can be incorporated into your sessions for patients throughout the treatment spectrum. Visit blazepod.com, enter code EVERYTHINGPT at checkout, and save 15% off your order today. Hey, all you rehab specialists out there, do you have an isokinetic dynamometer just sitting around your clinic not being used? Little known fact, isokinetic machines that aren't used regularly are at higher risk for bouts of sadness. Help your machine out and take CSMI's newest CEU course, Isokinetics 101 online, created by me, Daniel Bodkin, and learn how to use all of the exercise and testing applications available on your machine. With new and exciting rehab techniques in your toolbox, your sad isokinetic machine can become an active member of the rehab team again and regain its happiness. Isokinetics 101 online by CSMI has been approved for 8 credit hours for athletic trainers, physical therapists, and physical therapy assistants. Contact your state board for details on specific requirements. This course is available at humacnorm.com/courses/isokinetics-101. All right. So next, one thing to think about is who do we schedule with each other? First thing to come off is, Medicare or any 8-minute payer that if you're, with them, we would always try to book them by themselves. Because if I have, a Medicare patient at the same hour that I have a Medicare patient, then you have to get into grouping, right? So we would always try to get our Medicare patients as much as we could on 1-to-1 time.
Yep.
And then everybody else, it kind of didn't matter as much.
Gosh, it just I get so annoyed when I think about medical billing, and it's so relevant and matters so much the way we get paid and operate. But in the future, I hope we can just simplify things. It's crazy that we get paid for, if we see 2 Medicare patients at the same time, we're going to get paid for one of them.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
which is bonkers. That should not happen.
Now, let me preface this. I've been out of the clinic for 3 years. Things may have changed, right? So I can't tell you that's precisely how it is now. But the other thing too is if I do 1 unit of therapeutic exercise, I can bill that for 8 minutes. But if I do 2 units, it automatically goes to 24, right? So how many units can you get in 60 minutes? People usually say 4, right? But what if I do a Therex, a Theract, a NeuroRead, a manual, blanking, then something, you can even get a 5th unit of something in that hour time slot if you diversify your charges.
Yeah, that's is it Rob or Rich Gawinda? He's the Medicare mastermind with billing. It's a good question for him. Maybe we'll ask him on the show.
Yeah.
But it's not something where it's one of my areas of expertise. And we have like 5 or 6 codes that we bill out, and I feel like we're really confident and like we're following all the laws and rules and regs to the best of our ability. You can get a master's degree in billing and coding.
Oh yeah.
It's a big deal. So we just try our best to not mess it up, basically.
Well, then the last thing to think about is, those patients to where you're getting paid a fixed amount. You're going to get reimbursed, $40 no matter what you do with that patient. All right. Well, that's the patient that's not getting all the bells and whistles. All right. They might be in and out the door in 45 minutes and you're not giving them that extra 15 because you're not getting paid for that. And you have to ask yourself, benefit. Am I truly taking care of this patient? You want to do everything that you can for your patients, but it's also a business at the same time. And just ask yourself, would a chiropractor do it that way?
Got lots of hate mail from chiros now.
Absolutely. And so think about that too. If you have somebody that you're essentially getting paid for 30 minutes of PT, because there's payers out there. Are they getting 30 minutes of PT?
So, and also in regards to scheduling, being a clinician, but also being, the business owner in private practice, it's important to schedule administrative time to sit down and force myself to look at profit loss statements, balance sheets, our front desk stuff that we measure every week, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to bore everyone, but that's very important to the well-being of our business too, that stuff be done. So I have to have time to do that. And especially because I don't like it. It's not fun. I generally try to shy away from it and be out in the clinic with patients. So it is, I hate shutting my door and grinding that stuff out, but I have to schedule it though.
Yeah. You got to schedule time. You got to put it on the schedule, time for marketing.
Yeah.
Block out
marketing
in an afternoon or 2 hours of an afternoon. Doing all your Medicare books, making sure everything's up to date. Going over your finances, calling patients back, calling doctors, a lot of that. And when you have that downtime, it's easy just to sit back and, if you have a TV in the clinic, start watching, ESPN. But if you're the owner or if you're the director, you need to use that time wisely. Are you going through reordering your supplies? All that stuff.
Yeah. Something else that we did last year that I felt really smart about, and it doesn't happen too often, but in the winter time, when we have that dead time, it's always the worst 2 months of the year, January and February up here. Weather's bad, deductible season, all that stuff. So what we did was that's what I met you, Daniel. We bought the isokinetic machine, got immersed in awesome continuing education. We had a lot more downtime, our volume's down. So we know that we're planning for it. So we just accept it and embrace it and get better at therapy at that time during that season too. So even plan to do continuing ed in the down season too, when you're not so busy and making a bunch of money.
Yeah, and that way you're not doing it on the weekends.
Yeah, or hustling.
Generally, the J
schedule
months.
it.
You got to think June and July. That's when people are going on vacations as well.
True.
So
True.
if you have a high, not even high, but a good amount of college students that make up your patient population, when they go home from the summer, that's it might be 2 people a day, 3 people a day. So your J months as well as January, June, and July. Those are big ones that you plan to. Hey, this is when we're going to hit marketing. This is when I'm going to take some CEU courses. This is when we're gonna take vacation. Like you were covering vacations a couple weeks ago, and then you just took yours.
Right.
So try to plan for those when you're going to have downtime.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. The other thing I wanted to say is just like the general, the front desk is so important. You mentioned you guys have one lady who is just an all-star at the front desk, and even their confidence and verbiage is important. Instead of asking them what time they want, they are grooming them to say, okay, Mrs. Smith, that doesn't work, but if we have tomorrow available at 11 or 2 p.m. Which one works best for you? And they tell you, but they don't demand their times. They're not running the conversation too. So I think that narrative is important.
They can communicate it to them. It's like, I know you want to come in at 8 o'clock, but I really need that hour for people that are coming in before work. So if it's if you're able to come in at 10 o'clock, that would be really helpful. And just communicating that to them, that really helps.
Yeah, I think that's wise for sure. Anything else on scheduling, Daniel, or did we just knock it out of the park?
Yeah, it's a big one. I've been wanting to do this one for a while because if you're not a director yet, you're just you're a staff PT, but becoming a director is on the radar in the next few years. These are things to really start thinking about, because again, it can make or break your success as a director or as a private practice owner.
Oh yeah, and some of the most successful people in the world, if you just study them and look at their schedules, they know exactly what's going on to the very minutes on their schedule. So important to command it in all aspects, whether it's your workout, your family life, we talked a lot about clinically today, but I try to schedule my time that I'm going to be with my wife or whatever. We're going to trips, vacations, because it's very important. If it's not on the schedule, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. And even now, even though I'm not in the clinic, I have to drive. So I have clients 5 to 6 in the morning. Then I come home, wherever my wife is and, getting the kids ready, I take over. She goes to work. I drop them off. And then I go to, usually go to a client's house right after that. And then I have, usually the 10 to 2 o'clock. That's when I'm, teaching, doing computer work, doing all my, home reno stuff. The wife always has a long list. Or even things like, hey, I got to mow the grass. And think about it. It's saving you money if you're not paying somebody to do it. Those things, it's all on the schedule. And I have to have that all done before my oldest gets off the bus at 2:30.
Yep.
And, so even this, we scheduled the pod. Then I'm going to eat dinner. It's already made. It's going to be a really good Greek mac and cheese. It's delicious. But then I have a 7 o'clock client tonight. So
there you go.
I'm going to help my wife with the bedtime routine with the girls, and then go off to some patients, then come home and maybe hang out, watch a little House of the Dragon. I don't know. Maybe Lord of the Rings.
Man, you're right on my watch list right now. It's awesome.
Yeah. So even though I'm out of the clinic, that aggressive schedule management is still, it's sticking with me.
It's a good word for it. Aggressive schedule management. Yeah. Efficiency. So I think it's good. I think it's important that we do this, because the more dialed in my schedule is, just the more people we're going to help. I think the more finances, the more money we're going to make. I think just the better things are going to go, you know?
You know, you don't think about it, you know, on a day-to-day basis, but if you can get just 1 unit extra per day, you know, take that over the 50 weeks of the year. You know, that one little, you know, 1 unit extra per day adds up big time at the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know, and then if you're investing that, you know, money at the end of the year, you know, how much does that end up being after 30 years? So it really does make a difference.
Yeah, long term for sure. Yeah, I agree.
All right, I think that's it, Matt. It's good chatting. Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, good seeing you, buddy. And thanks everyone for listening out there. And we'll catch you next week on our podcast. See you next time.